Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Thursday, June 3rd. This is our first Legacy Ed News for the month of June. We're excited. Today we're having a dynamic conversation with LJ Finney of N18. We're going to be talking about leadership, golf, and equity. I'm Dr. Bartholomew from Partner with Legacy. Thank you so much for waking up with us and for joining us this morning. I hope you had a wonderful Memorial holiday weekend. I'm excited to be back. It's also June. June is the month of graduations and celebrations. I'm giving a special shout out to all of our recent doctoral candidates who graduated. Last webinar, we had Dr. Farrington. I'm giving a special shout out to Dr. Boswell, Dr. Alexis. We have a few of them who've crossed the threshold and into a new field and new territory. So good morning, everybody. Call a friend for Legacy Ed News. I'm Dr. B, and as you know, our format is I like to get you caught up first on the latest education news. And I had to take a note. Normally, I always prep for this, but I actually had to write down some notes in my book. I always have them, but I'm starting off with London today for Legacy Ed News before we start our conversation with the dynamic leader, LJ Finney. So in London, the Imperial College of London has decided that they want to diversify. So out of 10,000 students, this is a college that does, they're known for their work in science and in mathematics. And out of their current 10,000 students, they only have 235 students who are Black and students. They do have students of color, but 235 students who are Black. And they have decided that they want to double the numbers. So good for you that you've decided to double the numbers. But I want to ask, how did you all of a sudden decide to double? Right? I mean, it sounds good. We're just going to double our numbers, but you only have 235 out of 10,000 students. Are you kidding me? Are you trying to tell me that in London that you don't have people of color from the Caribbean, from Africa, from Senegal, from Cote d'Ivoire, from all of those places, and you will magically now double your numbers? So that is an important education news. I'm sorry, I have to keep it real with you as always. So check out Imperial College and them deciding to double their numbers in math and science. Los Angeles and New York City has also decided that come September, there will be no remote learning and no remote options for parents and students. And so two of the largest school districts are trying to, I guess, bring back that structure. We're hoping everybody gets vaccinated, but I always think once you give people options, it's a harder thing to take it back. Other news today, I'm in a New York state of mind today. So I'm doing a lot of New York news. Senator Robert Jackson held a rally outside Capitol building to bring light to the issue around immunity for police officers if during an arrest, if they kill a citizen. And so they are trying to push legislation and policy against police immunity. So that is Senator Robert Jackson. Senator Chuck Schumer was also pushing for broadband access, greater broadband access, which we know is so necessary, right? I consider it the redlining of our communities when you don't have access. And this pandemic has certainly shown the disparities within our communities of color. And before we start with LJ, I have one other New York news that I had to point out today. If you didn't see it, so the UFT sent out notices to their 80,000 members. They are endorsed Comptroller Scott Stringer, and they noted to their members not to rank choice the leading candidate, Eric Adams, who is currently the borough president of Brooklyn, or Andrew Yang. So they have indicated not only to just support a candidate, but literally to say not to even rank choice them. That's an important piece. One, I don't think we've had a session yet on this rank choice voting. Certainly we know the mathematics of it, but just because something is mathematically correct doesn't necessarily make it right? More importantly, as we host this show and as we talk with our members of our community, I want you to know that we are always advocating and bringing the information for our parents. And when you see these kinds of discussions, if you are a mom, if you are a parent, and you don't necessarily have to have a child in the system, I would say to you that children, especially Black and Brown children, don't have unions, but they have parents. And so it's so important to know your to know your rights as a parent, to understand, right, your candidates, to understand what people are advocating for. So in New York City and in a lot of these large districts, the teacher union contracts are bigger than those yellow phone books that we used to sit our kids on to reach the dinner table. And so it is policy that we're fighting for, and it's important to know the policies and to know what each candidate is speaking to. And so this Sunday, Eric Adams is hosting, they're doing a press conference outside of the Schomburg for Black and Latinx educators who are also in support of him and in support of his candidacy. So welcome back, everybody. Once again, I'm wishing you a wonderful June. I am excited to have this young and dynamic entrepreneur, LJ Finney of In18. And she is also a golfer, a technology person, leader, finance, and also a golfer. So I'm excited to talk today about golf and challenging the status quo, because during the pandemic, our kids couldn't play basketball anymore. And so did people reach for some other options? Did they think out of the box and reach for new territories? So good morning, LJ. Thank you so much for waking up early with us for Legacy Ed News. Welcome. Let me let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Good morning, everyone. My name is LJ Finney. And the funny thing about this, LJ is my nickname that I got playing golf. And so translating that into the regular everyday world was the goal. So my formal name is Latoya Finney, and everyone calls me LJ. I'm happy to be here today. My background, I started off my career in technology and project management, and actually I used to be a developer. And then I transitioned into more of the business analyst role, and I worked in finance and technology on Wall Street. And I did project management certification, but throughout my entire career, golf was the one tool that differentiated me from all of my peers and just gave me access to different spaces and places throughout my life. And then throughout this journey of life, I've transitioned into executive and leadership coaching. And so that is what I do now. And I use golf as a tool to build bridges and help people.
That is so exciting. That is awesome. It is, first, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, and to know that those leadership skills that you learn on the golf course, right, that you can apply in the boardroom, you can apply in your business. And also for our students also to know and to understand, right, that there are other industries out there that they need to have access and opportunity. So first, tell me why golf. And so for those who don't know, I don't play golf. I learned how to play tennis in college, so I do play tennis, but golf has been on my list for a while to learn. So first tell us, how did you develop a love of the game of golf? Because we don't meet many people of color who play. We certainly don't meet many women of color who also play.
Sure, yeah. So my story is interesting in the sense that I went to Long Island University. So I'm a native New Yorker through and through. And, you know, right now I'm very disappointed that the Knicks lost, because I, was quietly praying for them to be, redeemed. And, I'm happy for Atlanta, but at the same time, I wish the Knicks had won. So I went to Long Island.
She's trying to get us into, she's trying to have a back and forth with Dr. B. All right, I'm not going to throw no shade on the Knicks. I wanted them to win as well, okay?
Thank you.
And sooner or later, and I love Derrick Rose. I'm so happy they have him, but...
I just wanted to win in my lifetime, but I'm happy we've gotten this far, and I just wanted it in my lifetime. But
which gets to the leadership piece, right? Like, you're not going to get a win if they don't go after certain things leadership wise, right? Like they need some serious leadership. It's not only about that one star player on the court. And I love Derrick Rose. I actually would love to see him as a coach. I think he's got a wonderful spirit. So I'm glad we're getting into it. So we're voting for the Knicks.
We're voting for the Knicks. You're right about leadership. That could be a whole case study on the Knicks and leadership.
Absolutely. So tell us, how did you get into golf from LIU?
So yes, Long Island University, I went to CW Post Campus. I was a computer science major, information systems, and I needed 1 credit to graduate. And during that time, you could go through the curriculum and try to find classes. But Tiger Woods was really big in that during that time. And I thought, what else can I do? And golf was being offered for 1 credit. I needed 1 credit to graduate. And not to say that I'm over ambitious, but I was exactly at the point where I just wanted that 1 credit, nothing more, and I couldn't do anything less. So I took golf, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life, because I thought, college is a place where you're going to learn and get exposure and experiences that you've never had before. So where else can I learn something like golf? My family doesn't play, no one I know plays, but here I am in a safe environment, school. I'm paying a tremendous amount of money, and why not take golf? And in my class were nothing but the football team, the basketball team, like every athlete was in my class. And I don't even know why, but it was a great opportunity to understand components of the game, but it still was a difficult transition to start playing. But that is how I got into golf.
Wow, wow, that is a wonderful story. And what, how special it is when we actually, right, in education can create new opportunities and to take those risks as well. So this is graduation season so anybody who's listening and you've got a graduate in college, let them do something out of the box. Because look at what it has led LJ to in terms of being able to now design a business around those skill sets and the mindset as well. So I certainly, so tell us a little bit about how does the game challenge the status quo and put us in the context of the pandemic right now, because I know most people we couldn't necessarily go out. And so were you playing throughout this whole year?
Yes, but not in New York City. So here's the challenge. Golf is not accessible in the 5 boroughs as much because there's not as much open space. So you have to go slightly to the outer boroughs. So if I'm in Manhattan proper, New York City, Harlem, you have to go to like the Bronx or Brooklyn or Queens to get access to the golf courses. Golf was the only thing that people could do throughout the entire pandemic. The golf courses outside of New York City never closed. So imagine this, everyone in New York City is cooped up in their apartments and they can't leave. But golfers, we could go outside. You can maintain 6 feet of distance. You can keep your mask on, and you literally could play outside. So it's a game changer in the sense that it's about access. So that's really like the tale of two New Yorks. The person that had the car that can get out and drive, they can go to the golf course and enjoy themselves with friends. Everyone else,
you're stuck inside. Exactly.
yeah.
Everyone else is, yes. Those people who can afford it, it gives a chance to live their best life. And you're absolutely correct. And it's an important discussion too, because we know I have a lot of my principals and my educators who listen, and they're always thinking about what to do differently, right? Well, how do they design school differently? And to be able to think out of the box and say, we can do something, a unique experience for our students. So how do you go about helping our children develop and explore an interest in golf? And you talked about the access challenge. I think it's more of a mindset. I think if the Bronx is not that far, but oftentimes people in one borough don't go outside of their borough. So first, tell us about how do you go about just developing an interest, right? Getting kids curious about the game.
There's so many different pieces and components to that. First, representation matters. The children have to see themselves in the sport. They have to believe that it's something for them. And even in our own community, like you have people of color that are like, golf is for like old rich white men. All right. But when you get there, you realize there are a lot more people playing than before. And maybe historically, actually, yes, we know historically it was. So to develop an interest for children, it's giving them exposure to people that are playing and just letting them try it and see how they feel. Kids are naturally curious, and it's all about giving them the opportunity to see that they can excel at it. And it starts off small, like just putting. Like kids love putt-putt golf, and that's the beginning and the entry point it can be, as well as taking them out to see the beauty of the golf course and how much land is used to actually support a golf course.
Yeah. I think what's happening in our city as well is that we do have space, so you don't have to necessarily start off on the actual green course, but there's never truly a plan around the physical spaces in New York. So I'm always bothered when I go to a park. I play tennis in the summertime. When I go to play tennis, and all of the boys, all of the kids, they're only on the basketball court. The tennis courts are empty, right? The wall that you can, play handball is empty. And oftentimes it's because there's no adults there. There's no structured events for them to truly, right? To do exactly what you're saying. Let me at least show you, and you will find something new and something interesting and something curious. And this is part also, as we look to the future, I think about really thinking about leadership. right? So there's this huge, I didn't believe that there's a leadership void in our community. Not that we don't have people with titles, but true leadership and them understanding how to look at what's in our hand and how to develop those capacities. So can you tell us a little bit, because your work is truly about leadership and you're doing some dynamic work in coaching and yes, and those project management skills, you bring in. So what are those leadership skills that you focus on? If I was a CEO looking to partner with you, or if I'm a school principal looking to help you come in and train my staff, or some organization, not just those people in the C-suite, in the corporate suite, but a team approach. So what are those leadership skills that that golf brings to the table?
Yeah, absolutely. So leadership skills that we focus on. So it's interesting. People aren't aware of how much integrity comes into play with golf. Golf is a sport where there are no referees. Like you are scoring your own ball. There's accountability between you and the other people you're playing with, but for the most part, it's a covenant between you and God, or you and whoever you subscribe to, whatever you subscribe to. Because if you hit that ball, that counts as a stroke. So you have to count that. And if you hit it again, then you have to count that. And if you hit it into the woods and you lose it, you have to count that and add another for your ball. And you'll find that golf brings out the best and the worst in people. So when you think about leadership and we talk about different things that you're going to learn, one, self-awareness, because you start to realize how present you are amongst the other people. Yeah, it's about you hitting your ball, but then it's also about you being present with the other people and spending 4 to 5 hours with them, building relationships, having conversations, and just seeing people's reactions. So the self-awareness is a huge piece, because do you react poorly or do you react well when something bad happens? When you make a plan, are you able to execute it? And if not, how do you pivot? So adaptability becomes the next one. So integrity, adaptability, self-awareness, communication, teamwork. I mean, you name it, the golf course brings out the best and the worst. And all of that is a component that we use to help.
I know that you've got some upcoming events, LJ. If you would be able to, in the time that we have, can you share one of the events that you have upcoming, or if not even more than one, because you also do charity work and help to promote this in partnership with other organizations. And I think that is something that is just so powerful about who you are as a leader. It's not only working alone, but it's also working in partnership. So can you share any upcoming events that you have taken place in golf for those who may want to take the risk out there? Because
okay, so Dr. B wants me to run the list. Okay, so let me run
at least one.
Okay, one. Okay, so the most important event that I have right now is I have a client. His name is Hisham Tawfiq, and he has a golf tournament, his first celebrity golf tournament. He is actually on the blacklist, and he's hired my company, N18, to organize this event. I said yes because it's to support the Vulcan Society, and the Vulcan Society is the network of Black firefighters and EMS and first responders in New York City. And I'm honored to be part of that and support that, because the money he's raising goes to scholarships to help continue to recruit diverse individuals to the FDNY. And that's the Fire Department of New York. And I'm excited because Dr. B, you're a sponsor.
I am.
Yes, I'm so excited because through this sponsorship, one, you're helping to facilitate scholarships, but then two, the firefighters are learning about the business and the work that you do. And that is what golf can do. It creates communities, it builds awareness, it builds relationships, and it builds connectivity. Me leaning on my network, him leaning on his, and all of it for a greater cause, which is the Vulcan Society and the work they do. There aren't that many Black firefighters as captains and in these leadership roles. So this is all about filling the pipeline for this particular industry.
Okay, and thank you so much. And so congrats to them as well. And we're honored to be able to support them. And to also, I think what's important, that what you're opening up our eyes to is to truly be open, right? And to truly begin to recognize that we're enough and that you can continue life learning, but more importantly, also expand on yourself, right? Because there's no shortage of space in the world, but knowing to be in place and to be able to be confident requires you to try different things. You can't only be in the same, right, doing the same thing. You have to try other things so that you can see how those skills that you're learning and the skills that you have support you and encourage you and build up who you are as you take risks and as you do things that you don't necessarily think, oh, I'm not good at this, but you have to know who you are and you have to be confident in who you are and you have to show up. So I'm really excited about that. And so, yeah, kudos to you for
Thank
doing
you.
that work. You wanted to add?
I'd like to add everything that you're saying. When do we ever test those skills? When do we test our integrity? And when do we have opportunities to have practical application of the things that we're doing? So golf is one of those tools.
I look forward to learning sooner or later. I I don't have the physical strength yet back from my surgery, but hopefully in the next year or so. It has been on my bucket list for some time to learn. My dad loved sports, every kind of sports, and so I grew up watching sports with him. So I loved golf from since a child, basketball, baseball. Football is top on my list, absolutely. In my next life, I'll probably come back and be a coach of it. But I'm excited to know that we are looking to the future and that we're creating, a space for our kids to show up in different places and that we're shouldering up for them in different places and in different spaces. Are there any questions that you think we should be asking, LJ, as a Black and Latinx community about, I guess, about leadership and creating more opportunities for our children and also for ourselves as well, right? Because the adults also have to take risk. So is there things that you think we should be asking that we're not asking as a community?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at leadership, it's not about titles. It's about your ability to move people in the same direction. That different people with different interests, but being able to move people in the same direction for a common cause. And whether it's the advocacy around STEM programming, whether it's the transition to scholarships, I think some of the questions we can ask is, what can I do better? What else can I do? And how can I help? And I think that leads in the direction of being able to pick your cause and move it forward. And when I look at the work that you're doing and I look at the work that we're collectively doing, it's always about how do we change something so that it's better for the generation behind us, and how can we ask those questions. And if it's about golf that you're asking, who in my network plays golf? Who in my extended network or in my network of network? Because the first way to break the barrier is to just ask a question. And I'm always open to asking questions. So you can ask me whatever you need. But getting into the game is the hardest. It's not like basketball. You can't just pick up a golf club and just start playing. You can pick up a basketball and shoot. And so the questions that, if you're interested in playing golf or bringing golf to your schools or for your children, are who do I know in my network and what can we build to meet the need? Because it's more than just playing. It's also about the skills.
Yeah. I also think I know I'm mindful of the time as we come to a close. And for those who are watching, thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button because one, we appreciate the feedback to let us know we're doing the right work and we're doing work and bringing you content that you don't find anyplace else. Plus, it helps us at Partner with Legacy to break that YouTube glass ceiling. So thank you for hitting the like and the subscribe button. I do think, though, in our communities that we would like to think that if we pick up a ball, a kid just shoots, that they're playing basketball, and that's not true. And that's why there's always room at the top, right? That we're truly not investing in the training and the development of our children to really teach them the skill of basketball and also just the health and wellness of it, that we only think that it's only about, oh, you're going to make that, that contract. Yeah. But if it's about bringing health and wellness, a life, right? A life's journey where this is the masterpiece that you're creating, you want to have these different tools in your masterpiece, and you want to have these different tools as you craft out your life and as you fulfill your passion and your purpose. And so I thank you so much for your work, LJ. I am letting everybody know she is a young entrepreneur and want to watch and continue to watch. And tell us where to find the event for the Vulcan. I know that it's on Eventbrite, but what would they search if they just go to Eventbrite?
Oh, that's a good one. So it's under N18, so IN-18 is the organization that's organizing it. And if you want to search for Hisham Tawfiq or Vulcan, that should bring it up as well, some of the keywords. Okay,
excellent. And N-18 is Latoya Finney's company. She is the founder and the owner. So if you also have an event and also just looking to develop your leaders and to bring this unique approach to engage a staff and to engage team members. And I think what's also wonderful is you're not just only saying I'm only coaching the people who are who's in the title of leader, but to bring those skills of integrity and adaptability and those leadership skills to everyone as they engage in their work. I thank you, LJ. Thank you so much for sharing your voice and sharing your expertise this morning and letting us know that we can challenge the status quo in golf and every single day. For those who are joining us, this is Dr. B from Partner with Legacy. Thank you so much for making time with us this morning. We will be back next Thursday. Our webinar is Thursday. So I got a text from a couple people saying, Doc, what's the schedule? So usually Thursday morning, for those who are listening, we do LegacyED News. And Thursdays at 4 p.m., we do the Legacy webinar. So our next webinar is on financial wellness and financial empowerment. So that's next Thursday at 4 p.m. So please make sure you join us. LJ, thank you again. And we extend warm wishes to you and best wishes to you in your endeavors.
Thank you for having me.